Huawei is testing its own processors again. In January, there was information that Huawei is developing mobile processors. A few years ago, the U.S. Department of Commerce banned Huawei from purchasing advanced chips made in enterprises using American technologies. Last year's flagship smartphone Mate 50 Pro used a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor without support for the 5G communication standard. In late January, the U.S. presidential administration said it was rejecting new requests for export licenses for American companies that supply Huawei products. When Huawei's supply of Snapdragon chips runs out, it won't even have 4G-only versions left. In China, the largest SMIC enterprise produces chips at best on the 12 nanometers and 14 nanometers process technology, compared to 3 nanometers for TSMC and Samsung. As a result, Huawei is currently unable to produce chips that can compete with Qualcomm and MediaTek. Huawei is prohibited from receiving not only processors using American technologies, but also equipment for their production. Such equipment is manufactured by the Dutch company ASML. Huawei is trying to cope on its own. It has filed a patent application for ultraviolet lithography, UV, components that provide a more uniform light source than ASML equipment. If Huawei succeeds, it will not only benefit it, but also bring China as a whole closer to self-sufficiency in terms of the production of modern chips. In the meantime, Huawei is expected to announce the flagship smartphones of the Huawei P60 series in March. The P60 Pro should run on Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 4G or Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 4G chips. At the rear, a 50-megapixel main camera with a Sony IMX888 sensor, an ultra-wide-angle 50-megapixel Sony IMX858 and a 64-megapixel OmniVision OV64B periscope camera can be used, writes Phone Arena.